via a wireless network. And they are your typical home devices. The only difference being that they can talk to other devices and to the controller through that wireless network. And they can be controlled via that network by smartphone apps, voice commands, and through triggers, which are things like timers, motion detectors, other devices. So there's lots of other things that can be used to control those smart devices. But kind of what makes them smart is they can turn themselves on, turn themselves off, do things without you having to do it manually. So just to kind of give you some ideas of what we're talking about here, some sample benefits of a smart home. You can use something called smart plugs, which can make sure that space heaters are turned off when you leave your house or at bedtime. During the wintertime, I have 2 smart plugs. I've got a space heater attached to each one. And I used to, as soon as I would get 30 minutes away from the house, I would start wondering, did I turn that heater off? And I couldn't relax the rest of the time worrying about leaving a heater on. With smart plugs, I can check it on my phone. If they're still running, I can turn them off from my phone no matter where I am. You can turn smart lights on and off. You can unlock the front door from your car. Smart contact sensors can let you know if a door is opened by getting an alert on your phone. You can turn smart lights on anywhere in the house from anywhere in the house. So if you think you hear noise in the kitchen, you can turn on the lights in the kitchen from the bedroom before you go and investigate. You can check to see if your entry door or your garage door is closed. Many times in my life, I've driven away from home and then got to thinking, did I close the garage door? If you have a smart garage door, your smartphone can tell you if it's open. If it's open, you can close it. You don't have to turn on and drive back home to check and see if your door is closed or not. And you can adjust your smart thermostat. So if you've got it turned way down low in the wintertime, which is coming, before you leave work or leave wherever you are to come home, you can turn the thermostat up remotely. So you walk into a nice warm house instead of a cold house. Questions about any of those things so far? Everybody, can I get any idea of what a smart home is? Okay, we'll keep going, but again, unmute and ask if you have any questions. Oh, I see Denise has joined us. Hey, Denise, thanks for joining. So let's kind of look at this. I think sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words, and this is a picture that shows you what a smart home looks like and what the smart home ecosystem is. And that smart home ecosystem is all these different components and how they connect to each other. So you can see some of the components that I've talked about already. The smart devices like a smart camera, a smart light bulb, smart plugs. And then the 2 devices that control what's going on. Your smartphone is one way to control all the components in your smart home. And the other is what's called a hub or a controller, several different names for it. And this is typically a smart speaker. And we'll talk about those in a few minutes. And then, of course, the wireless network that connects everything. So you don't have to have wires running everywhere. Everything is wireless.
Great.
I'll probably refer back to this several times.
Great
question.
Yeah, I hear the word ecosystem all the time. Even though I know what it is, can you explain what you mean by ecosystem?
It's really just the name for all of these different components. So the ecosystem is primarily driven by the hub. And we'll talk a lot more about ecosystem. I think I'll probably, I'll expand on that in the next few slides, which will probably make it a little clearer. But it's all the different components.
Okay.
And the nature of the ecosystem determines which components will work in your ecosystem and which ones won't. But it's that collection of smartphone apps, controllers, and then all of the devices, and even the network or type of network are all parts of the ecosystem.
That's good. I'm looking forward to that. That's nothing got to do with the environment, right?
No, it's more these pieces, the components of the home. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, we're going to get into that in starting in this slide, because that's a good segue into, how do you create a smart home? So if this sounds intriguing and you're interested in maybe doing a smart home, the first step is to choose the smart home ecosystem provider. And in this case, there are 3 different ecosystem providers. So there are Amazon ecosystems, there's Google ecosystems, and there's Apple. So it really is the manufacturer of that controller that kind of sets the tone and defines what that ecosystem is going to look like. And so typically, it's the term ecosystem is tied to the manufacturer. And so there's several considerations in terms of which ecosystem provider you're going to use. Do you want to use Amazon, Google, or Apple? One is familiarity with the vendor. So if you already have an Amazon Alexa, and Amazon Alexa is one of those hubs, this is an Amazon Alexa device. And that's one of the ways you can control the devices. So if you already have an Amazon Alexa and maybe some other Amazon apps, you may want to go with Amazon. Similarly, you may have a Google speaker, smart speaker, or you may have a Google thermostat already. So you have some familiarity with Google that might lean you toward Google. If you're an all-in Apple person, you've got a Mac, you've got an iPad, you've got an iPhone, you might want to go with Apple. One of the other considerations beyond familiarity is the selection of devices available. And I want to say up front that each one of these ecosystems has all the different types of smart app appliances that we've talked about and that we will talk about, but they don't all have equal numbers of them. And pretty much there's more choice if you go with the Amazon ecosystem than the others. Probably Google is next, and then Apple has fewer choices, but there's still plenty of choices for each category. So it's really not a limiting factor, but if you want the best availability, that would put the nod a little bit toward Amazon.
Wait, is there any appliances? For example, my first question is Ecobee. I have my air conditioning and heater thermostat, which is Ecobee. Which I have an app through which I control it. How do I know with that can work with Amazon, Alexa, or Google, or Apple?
Okay, and I'll show you how to do that when you're shopping. And what you can do is actually just go to the same website and look up what you've already purchased. Because some appliances will work with all 3 ecosystems.